Greetings, my friends. Welcome to the Grit and Equity Talks podcast with yours truly, Dr. India White. I'm thrilled to be here with you guys. I want to wish all of the women a happy International Women's Day. That's on March 8th, but I want to celebrate women all month. But as we continue to move forward, before we get into the fun of that, I do want to make some announcements. First things first, the Grit and Equity Talks podcast with Dr. India White will be featured on X Factor EDU network hosted by Dr. Matthew Joseph, and you can find it on Spotify. I also want to remind you to also follow my social media channels because you can find it there. Facebook is Miss India White. LinkedIn is The India White. Twitter is Indie Speak and Teach. Instagram is Indie238. YouTube is India White 123. And TikTok is Dr. India White. I also want to encourage you to check out the website, www.india-white.com, for some books and blogs and to schedule me for whether it's a speaking event or a coaching event, however we can work together to bridge the gap. I wanted to remind you guys also of some upcoming events. I'm excited to be speaking this week to math coaches with my friend TJ. We will talk about coaching for grit. And then I also am excited about speaking at the Vermont Council of Teachers of Mathematics annual conference at the end of the month. Can't wait to see you guys there. Please check out the Grit mini workshop whenever you get a chance on the Grassroots Workshops website. Thank you so much for your support and that. And then, of course, this show is usually if you're trying to close the achievement gap, but you're having some classroom management issues or your students just aren't motivated to do work, then you can join me on this show. We'll talk about some various issues to help our students and teachers alike on the Grit and Equity Talks podcast. So thanks again for joining me. I said I do want to go ahead and start talking about women in the show. I want to take the time to celebrate gritty women. And the reason why I want to do this is because this is a month where we do highlight women all over the world that have made some phenomenal contributions in various areas. So because the show, does tailor to math, education, things like that, I will try to stick to those areas, but I will possibly also venture out and talk about other women that are just amazing in their own right. And so thanks so much for participating with me in this. I do want to go ahead and share some of these women that I was able to find for you guys. And so I'll start here. It says great women of mathematics. So we have here Sophia. I cannot pronounce her last name. And then you have some other women here. This says Hypatia of Alexandria. So she was a Greek mathematician and she was an astronomer and a philosopher in the 4th and 5th century of Egypt, recognized for her commentaries on prominent mathematical works of her time. So that was a while back, but she was amazing. And so, yeah, so awesome. Give her flowers, right? Now I want to focus on the next one here. This says Maria Agnesi from 1718 to 1799, hundreds of years before we were here. Maria was an Italian mathematician, philosopher, theologian, and a humanitarian, best known for her seminal text on mathematical analysis, analytical institutions. All right. They do have some books here for her. There's a biography and whatnot, so you could check her work out. I also want to honor another one, Sophie Germain, to the French mathematician, a physicist, and a philosopher who made significant contributions to the fields of number theory and theory of elasticity. She was the first woman to participate in the sessions at the French Academy of Sciences. Wow. And so she was here in 1776 through 1831. And what richness of wealth there, what richness of intelligence. That's just powerful when you think about it. Next, Ada Byron Lady Lovelace. So she was an English mathematician, a scientist, a writer. She was known as the prophet of the computer age for her visionary ideas regarding potential uses of computational machines. So she was here from 1815 to 1852. Okay, so give her flowers. Now I want to go to the next one. Florence Nightingale, from 1820 to 1910, was a English social reformer. She was a nurse and a statistician who employed new techniques of statistical analysis in her efforts to ameliorate unsanitary hospital conditions. Wow. Very nice. I think it's very impressive because, sometimes you think of the older days and it's easy to assume that these people weren't as forward thinking or weren't as gritty because it was a previous time era. But looking at these things, they definitely were, I think, ahead of their time. All right, look here. Sophia Cava, I'm not going to butcher their name. Yeah, I'm not going to butcher that. Is it Kovalevskaya? So this is a Russian mathematician who made noteworthy contributions to the field of analysis. I wish I would have known about these people. Partial differential equations. I mean, goodness. I wish I was taught about this when I was working on DiffyQ. Because, when you're working on differential equations, it feels very like it just almost feels like women wouldn't pioneer something like that. But look here, so for all of you out there in college working on differential equations, here you go. She's got some books, The Mathematics of Sonia Kovalevskaya, I think. Kovalevskaya, I don't know. A Convergence of Lives. Okay, and it's all these. Awesome. Well, that's impressive. Here, Amy Amalie Noether, I guess. This is a German. She was a German mathematician who was known for her landmark contributions to abstract algebra. What? I am shocked because I took these courses, at University of Florida, go Gators, but I would have never thought that. I mean, and maybe that's a bias. I would have never thought a woman would have contributed to abstract algebra, to differential equations, like all this. So this is powerful to know. And like the one thing that keeps coming to me, I wish I would have known about Emmy and the other ones when I was majoring in math, because it would have brought comfort to my heart that this was not just a male-dominated field, but that there were women who literally were pioneering these subjects. I mean, look at this. Emmy is known for abstract algebra and theoretical physics. Wow. I mean, this is amazing. I mean, this is like, wow. In the 1800s. 1882 to 1935. Wow. 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 I mean, these women were geniuses, Okay, next one. Euphemia Lofton Haynes from 1890 to 1980. Look at this. She's an American mathematician and educator, first African-American woman to earn a PhD in math in the 1890s through 1980s. Wow. Pretty powerful. That's pretty powerful. And so a book on display, determination of sets of independent conditions characterizing certain special cases of symmetric correspondence. Her other book, another book where she's referenced, I guess it says, Changes Possible, Stories of Women and Minorities in Mathematics. And then I guess they reference her from pages 93 to 99. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Euphemia Lofton Haynes. Awesome. All right, let's keep going. Mary Cartwright, 1900 to 1998. A British mathematician known for her research in analytical function theory. for the distinction of being the first woman mathematician elected as a fellow of the Royal Society of England. Wow. Amazing. And that was in the 1900s. So I don't know about you, but like reading this, I feel I'm having like an epiphany. I'm having a moment because, I'm not gonna lie. It seems like society is kind of like lied to us and it made us think that like women are okay in math, but we're not a pioneer or, abstract algebra or physics or, and so you get that tone of women like know your place. Seems like there's a little bit of gender bias there, but when you make room for someone like, these women that we mentioned, it's just powerful. Because these women were gritty and they were doing amazing things when I'm sure they had little to no support. I mean, you're talking 1700s, 1800s, but they still did it anyway. It's like they were just gifted with a brain and they used it. And now we get to benefit off of their work, their contributions, and their intelligence. So kudos to all of those women and their families. And, hopefully, some of us out here can emulate some of the greatness of those women because I think it's impressive. All right, now I want to go into another one. This is from NASCO Education. It says 6 women in mathematics. 6 women in mathematics your students should know about. So it says for decades, the gender gap in mathematics has been a topic of conversation, even though women make up nearly half of the U.S. workforce. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, they're still underrepresented in STEM jobs, especially in mathematics. So despite facing challenges like gender stereotypes, lower wages and salaries, harassment, and the lack of recognition, many women in mathematics history broke down barriers with their achievements. Still many barriers to go. So here they have the same lady, Hypatia of Alexandria, born between 350 and 370 AD in Egypt. She collaborated with her father on classical math works, translating them and incorporating explanatory notes, and taught students from her home. Look at this. She made several advances in math, namely her work on conic sections and developing concepts of ellipses, parabolas, and ellipses by dividing cones into planes. My goodness, look at this, y'all. Look at this. I mean, to the math dorks, look. I am just speechless. Whew, I am speechless. Wow. Okay, so we looked at Sophie Germain. And so here they're talking about her again. I want to keep going, so I'm going to see if there's another. They talked about Euphemia again. She earned her doctorate in math in 1943. Wow. The first doctorate in math is in 1943. That says a lot. Makes you think. And then it says she spent over 45 years teaching math to elementary, high school, and university students. She was appointed to District of Columbia Board of Education. So all of you guys that are part of that, listen there. Starting in 1960, and she was president of that body from 1966 to 1967. During her time on the Board of Education, she fought racial segregation within the school system and supported a lawsuit to desegregate. Wow, look at that. The school system. Wow. That was just in the 60s. Wow. Very interesting. And then, of course, they have Emily Noether again. Amazing, 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 amazing. Florence Nightingale. Okay. So she was a prophetess in the development of applied statistics. Yeah. So she's remembered for her work, again, of hospital sanitation. She was an innovator of collection, tabulation, interpretation, and graphical display of descriptive statistics and polar area diagram, a precursor of the pie chart. And then, of course, Katherine Johnson, which, is one of the personal ones that I look up to. She was an African-American mathematician. who calculated and analyzed the flight paths of many spacecrafts in orbit during her time at NASA. She started high school at 10 years old, so she was gifted, right? And started college at 15 and graduated college at 18. Wow. Wow. It says in 1952, she was 34 when she learned about jobs for Black women in math and computer skills at the Langley Laboratory or at the National Advisory Committee for Aeronautics, which became NASA. She and fellow mathematicians Dorothy Vaughan and Mary Jackson worked as human computers, figuring out difficult calculations needed for space flight. During her time, she broke racial and gender barriers. Interesting. So again, it says during her time there, she broke racial and gender barriers. Then it says in 1969, she calculated the trajectories of Apollo 11 mission that sent Neil Armstrong and other astronauts to the moon and brought them home safely. NASA dedicated Katherine G. Johnson Computational Research Facility at the Langley Research Center to commemorate her work. And then it says there's an experiment, but I mean, wow, what a powerhouse. You know, we just need more Katherine Johnsons like this. We need to honor them. We need to make room for them and not take their intelligence lightly and not judge a book by its cover because we can miss out on just gold like this. Beautiful. So that was pretty neat. I remember they had Katherine Johnson a couple of years back. She was speaking to mathematicians at one of the math conferences. It was a high honor to hear from someone like her. Just to know that, you know, she's in the ring, she exists, and she contributed so much to the STEM field is amazing. So continue on the wavelength of the real NASA hidden figures, these African-American women who were human computers that were vital to the space race here. That's Mary Jackson. So in the 1960s, the Mercury astronauts, Alan Shepard, Gus Grissom, John Glenn, and others absorbed accolades of being the first men in space, but behind the scenes, they were supported by hundreds of unheralded NASA workers, including the human computers who did the calculations for their orbital trajectories. So in 2016, the book by Margaret Shetterly titled Hidden Figures, it was based on, or the movie that was based on the book talks about some of these rock stars. So beginning in 1995, NACA, which was a precursor of NASA, hired hundreds of women as computers. That was in 1935. The job title designated someone who performed mathematical equations and calculations by hand according to NASA history. The computers worked at the Langley Memorial Aeronautical Laboratory in Virginia. Human computers were not a new concept. In the late 19th and early 20th century, female computers at Harvard University analyzed star photos to learn more about their basic properties. These women made discoveries and still fundamental to astronomy today. And then look here, it says during World War II, the computer pool was expanded. Langley began recruiting after, so this is during World War II, recruiting African-American women with college degrees to work as computers, according to NASA. However, segregated policies required that these women worked in a separate section called the West Area Computers, although computing sections became more integrated after the first several years. So segregation was still a way of work in the United States. I just think that's super wild and crazy that we were once like that. But anyways, so it says, as the years passed and the center evolved, the West computers became engineers, electronic computer programmers, the first Black managers at Langley and trajectory whizzes, whose work propelled the first American, John Glenn, into orbit in 1962. Hidden Figure focuses on 3 computers: Mary Jackson, Katherine Johnson, and Dorothy Vaughan. So now they're going to honor these women and give them their flowers. So Mary Jackson from 1921 to 2005. She hailed from Hampton, Virginia. She graduated with high marks in high school, received a Bachelor of Science degree from the Hampton Institute of Mathematics and Physical Science. Wow. She began her career as a school teacher and took on other jobs before joining NACA. As a computer with the all-black West area computing, as a computer with the all-black West area computing section, she was involved with wind tunnels and flight experiments. Her job was to extract the relevant data from experiments and flight tests. She also tried to help other women advance in their career, according to her biography. She discovered that occasionally it was something as simple as the lack of a couple of courses, or perhaps the location of an individual, or perhaps assignments given to them, and of course, the ever-present glass ceiling that most women seem to encounter. Very interesting, I guess. So after 30 years with NACA and NASA, Jackson, she became equal opportunity specialist to help women and minorities. Wow, that's after 30 years. Then she retired from NASA in 1985. Wow. Then Katherine Johnson, born in 1918. So she attended high school, West Virginia State College on that college campus by age 13, and was in college by age of 18. She graduated with the highest honors and started working as a school teacher in 1937. Wow. From school teacher to literally helping people get on the moon. That's awesome. So it says 2 years later, the college chose to integrate its graduate schools. Johnson and 2 male students were offered spots. She enrolled. She left to have children. Wow. She was a mom and all. This is amazing. So let's skip down a little bit. So it says her life quickly changed after the Soviet Union launched their first satellite in 1957. And so then they're talking about these lecture series. And this goes on and on. This is amazing. So Johnson, for the Mercury missions, Johnson did trajectory analysis for Shepard's Freedom 7 mission in 1961. And then at John Glenn's request, she did the same job for his orbital mission in 1962. Despite Glenn's trajectory being planned by computers, Glenn reported he wanted Johnson herself to run the equations to make sure they were safe. Now, that's pretty powerful. When asked to name her greatest contribution to the space exploration, wow, Katherine Johnson talks about the calculations that helped sink Project Apollo's lunar lander with the Moon Orbiting Command and Service module. She also worked on the space shuttle and the Earth Resources Satellite, and co-authored 26 research reports. She retired from NASA in 1986 at age 97. In 2015, she received the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the highest civilian honor in the United States. Beautiful. Dorothy Vaughan, from 1910 to 2008, joined the Langley Memorial Aeronautical Laboratory in 1943. She was a teacher. And then here it says her job during World War II was a temporary position. But in part, thanks to a new executive order prohibiting discrimination in defense industry, she also was hired permanently. Good. All right. So it says, still, the law required that she and her Black colleagues needed to work separately from white female computers. And the first supervisors were white. So Vaughn became the first Black NACA supervisor in 1949. Wow. And she had to make sure her employees received promotions or pay raises if merited. Just amazing. It pays to know history. It pays to go over these amazing women that have contributed so much. And it just pays to dig and to find out knowledge for ourselves. These powerhouses from all over the world and their various contributions to our everyday way of life. So with that said, I do want to thank you guys for joining me on the Grit and Equity Talks podcast. As we talked about gritty women today, all of those women were grit. They had resilience, despite whatever they were going through, whether they were dealing with the gender bias or dealing with discrimination or whatnot, like they continued to press through. And that's why we honor them today. So with that said, thanks so much again for joining me on the Grit and Equity Talks podcast with Dr. India White. Again, this episode, the Grit and Equity Talks podcast, it will always be featured on the X Factor EDU network, hosted by Dr. Matthew Joseph, and it can be found on Spotify. You can also find it on all of my social media outlets as well to kind of expand the message. My social media messages or channels are Facebook is Miss India White, LinkedIn is the India White, Twitter is Indy Speak and Teach, Instagram is Indy238, YouTube is India White 123, and TikTok is Dr. India White. Also, feel free to check out my website, www.india-white.com for books, blogs, or to schedule me for a speaking and coaching event. Speaking of events, I will see you guys at the Math Coach Conference coming up this week. And I will see you all in Vermont at the annual Vermont Conference. I'm honored to be the keynote there. Thank you for all of the leaders that had that established. Please also remember to check out the Grit Mini Workshop on the Grassroots Workshops website. Also, give me a holler at the Grit Academy. Some have already done this. Thank you so much. And if you're needing your child to get prepped for the SAT or ACT, I would be honored to help you. Also, please do not forget to check out the Grit calendar so that you can continue to have grit, have that great resilience in time, and continue to thrive and be gritty no matter what. With that said, I do want to say again to all of you, thank you so much for joining me on the Grit and Equity Talks podcast. If you're wanting me to come and speak and do some things for you, you can visit my website, www.india-white.com, or you can send me an email at india.white.123 at gmail.com, and I will get there as soon as I can. So with that said, guys, thanks so much for joining me, and until next time, stay gritty. See ya.